Intifada! Viva, viva Intifada! Viva, viva Intifada! Viva, viva Intifada! Long live the Intifada! Long live the Intifada! No peace on a stolen land! No peace on stolen land! No peace on a stolen land! No peace on stolen land! Resistance is justified! Resistance is justified!
Anti-Semitic crime has been on the rise in Canada since October 7, 2023, when Hamas launched a terrorist attack on Israel, resulting in over roughly 1,100 civilian casualties and hundreds being taken hostage. This event marks the beginning of a conflict that would have far-reaching consequences worldwide. In Canada, pro-Hamas demonstrators have taken to the street across the nation, chanting slogans like "From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free," advocating for the erasure of the Jewish state and directly calling for an intifada, along with other anti-Semitic rhetoric.
From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free! From the river to the sea, Palestine will be free!
A troubling double standard seems to prevail among both politicians and law enforcement. While elected representatives have been quick to denounce certain groups and individuals, police have been criticized for their treatment of peaceful protesters during events like the 2022 Freedom Convoy, where ordinary Canadians were peacefully protesting for their basic freedoms. In contrast, police officers have been seen offering coffee to pro-Hamas demonstrators and failing to take action against hate speech and incitement displayed during these gatherings. And even arresting journalists reporting on the matter, as you have probably seen my colleague David Menzies and those opposed to terrorist rhetoric. Toronto resident and MP Kevin Vuong, who was ousted by the Liberal Party in 2019 following allegations of sexual assault that were later deemed unjustified, now sit in Parliament as an independent. He has been vocal about the current situation in Canada and has spoken out against it.
It's a very good question, especially in Toronto, where we have seen our streets occupied by protesters, people that have been chanting calls for genocide. I think it's been absolutely shameful that in Toronto, where we have 25 members of parliament, 25 members of provincial parliament, 25 city councillors, not including the mayor, I can probably count on one hand how many of the 76 of us have actually had the courage to stand up for what's right and call out the hate that's happening on our streets.
We are witnessing a rise in anti-Semitic crime in Canada, and I wanted to hear his thoughts on it.
I think it's absolutely shameful. Every act of hate, of anti-Semitism needs to be called out, and we need to take action to hold people accountable. We cannot continue to turn a blind eye, as we've been seeing from our leaders in the mayor's office in Toronto and here, frankly, on Parliament Hill. Why that this is continued to be allowed and permitted, why our laws are not being upheld is disgraceful, and our leaders need to step up. And if they're too scared to do it, they need to step aside. I want to remind our Prime Minister, Justin Trudeau, that an attack on one of us is an attack on all of us. Where was he when it came to marking the tragic anniversary of the hostages being held for 6 months? Why didn't he say anything about that? Why is he forgetting about the 133 innocent Israelis who are still being held hostage? These are babies, these are daughters, these are grandparents. Where is he? Why does he only seem to show care for one community and yet seem to dismiss the very real concerns and worries of not just the Jewish community, but allies? There are members of the Hindu Canadian community who have stepped up and realized that when these people who are attacking the Jewish community are done, they are next. When they're done with the Jewish community, members of the Asian diaspora like mine are next. 97 churches have been burnt, vandalized, and attacked here on Canadian soil. Where's the Prime Minister's condemnation of that? And Christians know, speaking as a Catholic, that once people are done with the Jews, we're next as well.
Now is the time to recognize Palestine. The United States, the United Kingdom have both signaled that they're looking at ways to formally recognize the state of Palestine.
This motion is about rewarding Hamas for their massacre. This motion is a vote to reward the murder, the rape, the kidnapping of Israelis, and this motion is deeply irresponsible.
When my party members got up and cheered and gave a standing ovation to Heather McPherson and the NDP, I started reflecting as to whether or not I belonged.
In the House of Commons, MPs have voted in favor of the NDP motion to recognize Palestine as a state. Subsequently, Anthony Alsfather, a member of the Jewish community, was upset and was reflecting on his position within the Liberal Party. And I asked Mr. Vuong his thoughts about this.
I know Anthony has put out a statement saying he's going to stay within the party. It's obviously an immensely personal decision. All I can tell him is, speaking as an independent, there's a lot that we can do. We can continue to raise questions in the House as I have, take part in debates as I have, and stand up for your issues and for your own community. Especially, I can only begin to imagine what it feels like to be a member of the Jewish community and be a part of a Liberal caucus that has been supportive of the NDP, and they're blatantly anti-Semitic and frankly anti-Israel and anti-democratic motion that his colleagues not only supported, but stood up and gave a standing ovation to. And he was upset then, and so was I, but that he continues to remain in the caucus is something I know people are wondering about, and that's something that he needs to speak to. You know, I think it's important to actually describe these people for what they are. They are not, in fact, progressive. They are regressive. They do not stand for the values that they claim to do. And frankly, my own experience has been exactly that. They will talk about inclusion and diversity, but not really care about those opinions that don't agree with them. And then when they do, they accuse people like myself to be racist, to be a white supremacist. Are you kidding me? Give me a break, right? They think that Canadians are not smart enough to realize that they're hypocrites, and we need to call them out for what they are, as well as point out the fact that they are not progressive, they are regressive.
Regarding the double standards in police action, I asked Mr. Vuong what he thinks about police offering coffee to pro-Hamas demonstrators.
So in Toronto, that's where some of those incidents that you described had actually happened. Obviously, the calls for genocide have been across the country, and that's shameful. But to see, for example, that, like you said, that bringing of coffee and donuts to protesters that are actually chanting calls for hate, inciting violence, was something that I think most Canadians were like, hold on, what is happening here? The challenge right now is the police, who work very hard to keep us safe, are focused on keeping the peace. But that cannot be at the consequence of enforcing the law. Everyone needs to be equal before the law, and it needs to be applied to everyone. The law has to be applied to everyone, or it's not worth the paper it's written on. And police need to step up, but so do our leaders. Our leaders are seeing this, and their voices are absent. They are missing in action. And while that's happening, people who will break the rules, break the laws, and do things that are violent are emboldened, because what they see is implicit approval from our leaders. So when the Prime Minister turns a blind eye, these people see, okay, Justin either supports what we're doing, is they're too scared to do anything. Let's keep going and let's do more. That is a failure of leadership, and it is hurting Canadians, not only our unity as a country, but literally people are being assaulted. It's hurting our local businesses who are being firebombed, who are being vandalized, many of which unfortunately are in my community and are definitely in my city. And action needs to be taken.
The Liberal Party has decided to open our doors to thousands of Gazan refugees. According to a survey, 71% of Palestinians in Gaza and the West Bank support the October 7 massacre led by Hamas. I wanted to hear from him about this.
I think the reality is, first and foremost, our immigration system is frankly broken. We're not even able to do security screenings now on normal people in terms of of who are just seeking to come here. There have been tons of reports where we have let in operatives, family members of senior officials from the Islamic regime in Iran. That's already happening. So how can we expect any sort of security screening to ensure that Hamas operatives are not coming in? And so I think that's a huge point of concern. I'm sure most people would agree we want to be able to help innocent people. But how do we ensure that we're also protecting Canadians first and foremost? My parents are refugees. And when they were welcomed to Canada, they made a very conscious decision to leave the conflict that they left behind. Right? If you're choosing to come to Canada, and you can go anywhere else in the world, if you choose to come here, I don't believe that people should import their conflicts from abroad. Leave that behind and start to build a new life in Canada where you share our Canadian values for rule of law, for democracy, and help to build up your new home and your new country, not to relitigate old fights from before.
Don't forget to go over rebelfieldreports.com, chip in what you can to encourage our independent journalism, and thanks in advance for every donation.